Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. What if nightmares were not meant to be feared, but hunted? In the shadows of Japanese folklore lives a being summoned not to kill, but to consume your darkest dreams. Tonight, we uncover the legend of the Baku, the devourer of nightmares. The night is not always empty. In the silent, deepest hours, when the mind untethers from the waking world and descends into the realm of shadows, something else stirs. It is not a dream, nor a simple figment of fear. It is a presence, ancient and patient, moving through the velvet darkness with a purpose we have long whispered about but never truly understood. In Japan, for centuries, they have spoken of it in hushed tones, a name uttered at the bedside of a restless child or carved into protective charms. The Baku, a supernatural being said to devour nightmares. This is not a story of a god, nor a demon in the traditional sense. It is the story of a consumer of darkness, a gentle monster born from the collective sighs of troubled sleepers. Imagine the sound, not a roar but a soft, deep inhalation from the corner of a pitch-black room. The faint scent of old paper and damp earth. The fleeting sensation of a gentle pressure on the edge of the mattress, as if something large, impossibly so, has settled its weight with infinite care. The Baku does not announce itself with terror. It arrives as a solution, a tangible myth creeping in to sift the horrors from our minds. Tonight, we step beyond the veil of sleep. We will trace its footsteps through ancient scrolls and modern memory, through forests thick with spiritual energy, and into the very architecture of our subconscious. We will seek the Baku, but we must remember, to seek the devourer of dreams is to first acknowledge the potent, terrifying beauty of the dreams themselves. Our journey begins not in darkness, but in the delicate, faded inks of history. The Baku's origins are as composite and fascinating as its imagined form. It is a creature of import, a mythological immigrant that found a profound home in the Japanese psyche. Its earliest roots stretch back to the classical texts of ancient China, where it was known as the Mo, a beast that fed on the dreams and, some said, the very vitality of humans. This fearsome reputation underwent a profound transformation as it crossed the sea and was woven into the rich tapestry of Japanese folklore. By the Edo period, the Baku had evolved from a potential predator into a revered protector. Its image was carved into netsuke toggles, painted on scrolls, and described in yakai compendiums with a tone of gratitude. Scholars and priests debated its nature. Was it a true spirit, a kami of the night? Or was it a thought form, a tsukumagami, born from the collective human need for respite from psychic pain? Its symbolic meaning is deeply tied to the Shinto and Buddhist understanding of balance. Just as there are spirits of growth and light, there must be spirits of dissolution and absorption for the cosmos to remain harmonious. The Baku became the cleaner of the spiritual and mental refuse produced by fear. In art, it is rarely depicted as fearsome. Its eyes, even in the most beastly renditions, hold a deep, weary wisdom. It performs a necessary, albeit messy, service for humanity, a silent custodian of the soul's shadowed corners. But how does one call such a being? The relationship between humans and the Baku was not left to chance. It crystallized into specific folklore practices, a delicate etiquette for engaging with the supernatural. The most famous invocation was simple yet potent. A person tormented by a bad dream would, upon waking, sit up in the darkness and whisper 3 times into the still air, Baku Kyuri, Baku Kami. It was a plea, a prayer, and a transaction of faith. Sometimes a small offering would be left, a pinch of rice, a cup of cold tea, placed on the Kamidana household altar as a token of thanks. Talismans bearing the Baku's name or image were placed beneath pillows, often crafted from blessed paper or carved from peach wood, believed to have purifying properties. Yet there were also taboos, whispered warnings from grandmothers to grandchildren. One must never call the Baku frivolously, or for a mere mildly unpleasant dream. For the Baku, once summoned, was thorough. It would consume the nightmare, yes, but if the well of bad dreams was shallow, it might siphon off good dreams as well, or even graze on the dreamer's hopes and memories, leaving a void, a peculiar emptiness upon waking. The ritual, therefore, was shrouded in respectful fear. Picture a village at the foot of a mountain shrouded in pre-dawn fog. In a small wooden house, a farmer jolts awake, heart pounding from a vision of drowning. He doesn't scream. He clutches the Baku charm around his neck, feels the carved grooves, and murmurs the invocation into the charcoal-scented dark. He waits, listening to the creak of the house, the distant cry of a fox, wondering if the heavy, gentle presence he feels is real or the last vestige of the dream itself. Legends of the Baku are not grand epics of battle, but intimate, personal testimonies of intervention. One such tale comes from the diary of a Heian period court lady. She writes of a persistent nightmare, a faceless figure in rotting silks that would chase her through an endless, rotting version of the palace garden. Night after night, she would wake breathless, the scent of decay clinging to her waking senses. On the advice of an ascetic monk, she acquired a Baku statue of polished jade. That night she placed it beneath her pillow of fragrant cedar shavings. In her dream, the faceless figure approached as usual, but this time, a soft chuffing sound echoed through the spectral garden. From behind a grove of phantom willow trees, a creature emerged, not with a roar but a quiet, lumbering grace. It was larger than a bull, with the sturdy legs of a bear, the fur of a wild boar, and a long, prehensile trunk like an elephant's. It stepped between her and the nightmare. The faceless thing halted, then dissolved into a stream of black sand. The Baku lowered its head and inhaled deeply, the sand flowing into its nostrils with a sound like a sigh. It then turned its great, compassionate eyes to the lady, gave a slow blink, and faded into the mist of the dissolving dreamscape. She awoke not with emptiness, but with a profound, unprecedented peace, and the faint, earthy smell of a forest after rain in her chambers. Yet not all encounters were so cleanly resolved. There are darker, cautionary threads in the tapestry. A story from a remote mountain village tells of a woodcutter named Kenji, known for his greed and ill temper. Plagued by dreams of being poor and forgot, he began to call upon the Baku every single night, demanding it devour any hint of discomfort, any dream that wasn't of wealth and power. At first, it worked. He woke clear-headed, ruthless, but over time he began to feel hollow. His memories of his deceased wife's smile grew faint. The joy he once felt hearing the stream by his home became a dull memory. He had, in his greed for peaceful sleep, ordered the Baku to consume too much. The legend says that one night he called, and the Baku appeared not at the edge of his dream, but at the foot of his actual bed, visible in the waking world, a sign of a boundary catastrophically crossed. Its eyes, once kind, were now deep, hungry voids. It did not attack. It simply stood, waiting. From that night on, Kenji dreamt of nothing at all. Not a nightmare, not a pleasant fantasy, just an infinite gray void. He became a shell wandering the village, unable to recall feeling love or fear. The Baku, in its relentless obedience, had devoured his capacity to dream entirely, leaving a man trapped in an endless, waking sleep. This tale serves as a solemn reminder. The devourer of dreams is not a servant, but a powerful force of balance with its own inexorable logic. Beyond the personal, the Baku also features in myths explaining its own existence. One beautiful, melancholic origin story tells that the Baku was not born, but assembled by the gods. In the primordial era, when the world was new, the gods looked upon their creation and saw that humans, with their complex hearts, would generate immense suffering, not just in life, but in their sleep. The shadows of their days would fester into monstrous dreams. To prevent this spiritual poison from overflowing and poisoning the world, the gods took leftover parts from other creatures they had made. From the elephant, they took wisdom and a strong trunk to inhale. From the ox, they took steadfastness and strength to carry burdens. From the tiger, they took the courage to face fears. From the bear, they took a protective spirit. And from the tanuki, they took a touch of mischief and ambiguity. They breathed life into this composite being and gave it a singular sacred task: to be the scavenger of the human soul, to clean what needed cleaning. This is why the Baku's form is so paradoxical. It is a creature of deliberate design, a divine afterthought tasked with handling the byproducts of creation itself. It is, in a sense, the recycling agent of the spirit world, transforming toxic fear into neutral, silent nothingness. It lives in the liminal spaces, not quite heaven, not quite earth, but in the foggy borderlands between waking and sleeping, a permanent resident of the threshold. The Baku's habitat, therefore, is as nebulous as its diet. It is said to dwell in the spaces between, but specific locations are often cited in folklore where the veil is thin. Deep, old-growth forests, especially those surrounding sacred Shinto shrines, are prime hunting grounds. Here, the Baku might be glimpsed at dusk or just before dawn, a bulky shadow moving with surprising silence between the cedar trunks, its low, snuffling sound mistaken for the wind. Some tales place it near remote mountain passes where travelers are prone to yumacha, or dream falls. Sudden, deep sleeps overcome by altitude and exhaustion, ripe with disorientation for it to feed upon. Others whisper it resides in the forgotten tunnels of old mines, places where darkness is absolute and human despair once pooled. Near the sea, it is said to walk the borderline between surf and sand, consuming the nightmares of fishermen lost at sea, which sometimes wash ashore like psychic flotsam. The sensory experience of its presence is consistent. A drop in temperature, a deep, rhythmic breathing sound out of sync with your own, and that signature scent. A mix of damp earth, ancient library, and ozone, like the air after a lightning strike. It is a creature of profound silence, yet its arrival is always preceded by this subtle symphony of sensory cues, a warning and an invitation all at once. While often a solitary figure, the Baku does intersect with other denizens of Japanese folklore, and these interactions further define its role. It is neither allied with the malicious yakai like the Nu or Kuchisei Kana, nor is it a pure, divine servant like the Shinshi. It operates on a different axis entirely. There are tales where a Tsukumagami, an old object turned spirit, angry and neglected, haunts a home through the inhabitants' dreams. A desperate family might petition a wandering Yamabushi mountain priest who would not perform an exorcism, but instead enact a ritual to politely invite a Baku to visit that night. The story describes the confrontation in the dreamscape, the angry, jagged spirit of the broken tea kettle facing the calm, implacable bulk of the Baku. There is no fight. The Baku simply opens its maw and draws the vengeful spirit in, not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a particularly potent and coherent nightmare to be digested and neutralized. In this way, the Baku acts as a cleaner for other supernatural problems, a balancer on a spiritual level. Its relationship with humans who can see spirits, the miko or mediums, is one of respectful distance. They might sense its passage like a cool draft through a warm room, or see its afterimage, a distortion in the air like heat haze, lingering near a troubled sleeper's bedside, a sign its work is done. The physical depiction of the Baku is a fascinating study in convergent imagination. While the classic Edo period description, elephant's trunk, lion's mane, ox's legs, tiger's paws, is standard, regional variations abound. In snowy northern regions, the Baku might be depicted with the thick, shaggy fur of a bear and the antlers of a deer, a creature built for cold, silent nights. In coastal areas, it sometimes takes on features of mythical sea creatures, with scales along its back and wisps of kelp-like hair. Its eyes, however, remain a constant, large, dark, and deeply intelligent, often described as holding the patience of centuries and the sadness of a being that has seen the worst of the human heart. Artists through the ages have grappled with making this composite being coherent. In some scrolls, it looks awkward, a clumsy fusion. In others, particularly from the brush of ukiyo-e masters like Utagawa Kuniyoshi, it achieves a powerful, monstrous dignity. The act of consumption is rarely shown as violent. Instead, the nightmare is depicted as a cloud, a swarm of insects, or tangled black threads being gently drawn into the Baku's nostrils or a softly opened mouth. This subtlety reinforces its role not as a predator, but as a filter, a living, breathing purification ritual for the mind. The Baku's journey into the modern world is a testament to the enduring power of its core concept. It has gracefully transitioned from folklore into global popular culture, its symbolism adapting to new anxieties. In post-war Japan, the Baku appeared in children's manga and anime as a friendly, often cute companion, a far cry from its imposing traditional form. This reflects a societal desire to soften and domesticate the forces that manage our fears. In modern psychological parlance, the Baku is sometimes invoked as a metaphor for healthy coping mechanisms or therapeutic processes that digest trauma. It appears in video games as a benevolent monster that confers dream-related abilities, and in fantasy literature as a mysterious guide through psychic landscapes. Its image is used on sleep-aid apps and products, a direct line from the wooden pillow charm to the digital talisman. This evolution from a potentially dangerous spirit to a comforting icon highlights a shift in our relationship with the night and our inner demons. We now seek not just to banish bad dreams, but to understand and integrate them, and the modern Baku often reflects this more nuanced role. But does the Baku still linger in the old ways, beyond the screen and the page? In certain rural areas, and at specific, powerful spiritual sites, some maintain the old beliefs. There are inns in the mountains of Yashino or the forests of Yakushima where, if a guest suffers from night terrors, the keeper might quietly slip a small Baku a paper charm under the Shikabutan mattress pad, a service performed without fanfare. Modern Miko at some shrines still reports sensing a large, quiet presence around individuals undergoing severe mental anguish, a description that aligns perfectly with the ancient protector. Perhaps the Baku, as a concept, is so deeply wired into the human need for respite that it maintains a form of psychic reality. In a world now saturated with artificial light and constant stimulation, our nightmares have mutated into new forms. Anxieties about global crises, digital ghosts, the fear of irrelevance. One wonders if the Baku's form is evolving yet again in the collective unconscious, developing new attributes to sift through the peculiarly modern chaos of our sleeping minds. Is it learning to digest the hum of anxiety, the pixelated ghosts of social media fallout, the echoing dread of news cycles? What then does the Baku ultimately represent? It is not merely a monster from a folktale. It is a profound cultural acknowledgement that the products of our mind, especially our fears, have weight and consequence, and that the ecosystem of the spirit requires custodians. The Baku embodies the hope that our darkness does not have to be ours alone to carry, that there exists a compassionate, if strange, form of mercy in the universe, specifically designed to handle the toxic waste of the human psyche. It represents the wish for a clean slate, for mornings unburdened by the ghosts of the night. But it also carries the warning that to be cleansed of all darkness is to risk being cleansed of self. Our nightmares, in their terrifying way, are part of us. They highlight our cares, our hidden wounds, our deepest desires. The Baku teaches balance, the wisdom to call for help when the shadows grow too thick, and the courage to face the milder ones ourselves, for they, too, have something to tell us. It is a guardian of sanity, but also a reminder of what makes us human. So, as you prepare for sleep tonight in the quiet moments as the world falls away, listen. Listen past the distant traffic, the hum of appliances, the rhythm of your own breath. In that deeper silence, you might sense it, the ancient, gentle weight of a presence that has walked the borders of human consciousness for a millennium. It does not judge the content of your dreams. It simply waits, a silent custodian in the museum of the night, ready to perform its sacred, messy duty. The Baku, the devourer of nightmares, is a story we told ourselves to make the darkness feel less empty, and in the telling, we may have breathed a kind of life into the shadows. Perhaps the whisper was not just an invitation, but an act of creation. And perhaps, just perhaps, if you find yourself waking unusually peaceful after a night of potential terror, you might spare a thought, not of fear, but of gratitude, for the quiet monster that may have visited, done its work, and faded back into the spaces between, leaving only the scent of rain and a profound, echoing calm. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.